For more than a century, settlement houses have been a key stepping stone for Bostonians seeking a better life. That certainly applies in the South End to the Harriet Tubman House, a building with a rich history even depicted on its walls. But for United South End Settlements, the building has come to be seen as the stepping stone to serving the community in the future. To explain how the mission can be advanced by selling the property are two of the organization's leaders, the president and CEO, Maicharia, Weir, Lytle, and the former executive director, Frieda, Garcia. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to start with Frieda Garcia because this has to do with the history of the Tubman House and USES. That building is really sort of a shrine to the community that was there.
Well, it is and it isn't. Okay, it is a shrine because it takes the name of its former Harriet Tubman House on Holyoke Street, which was very obviously, it was created in 1903 by black women who were concerned about black women who were coming north to work and needed a place to stay and a place for resources. So it goes back to that history, and that's where some of the energy that one feels and ownership about the new Harriet Tubman House has. But the reality is that when that building was built, the agency and the community was going through a great deal of upheaval. I mean, the 60s and leading up to the creation of this building was the start and almost the full-fledged of urban renewal.
Urban renewal and a lot of displacement from the South End, too.
Thank you. And so, in a way, it is associated with all of that was going on in the community. So, and since it's opened its doors, obviously it's been a place where lots of wonderful things have happened. But we shouldn't get away from the fact of the reality of what went into creating that building. One reality is that it almost ate up the endowment of the agency because they set out to do a capital campaign, had a very difficult time doing it. And when I came in 1981, I remember a board meeting maybe about 10 years after I had been there where the treasurer announced that they had finally gotten the endowment back to what it was before they had built that building. So in a way, you could look at it and say it almost did away with the agency. I mean, that's pretty serious. And the reality is that when it was created at a time when they thought electricity was cheap. And when they turned on the switches in 1975, the electrical bill was $75,000, which, I mean, they couldn't sustain that. And so they started patching and making changes, which the building continues to suffer from today. So it's some very positive things, and then there's some other realities that are really painful and contributed in a way to some of the things that are going on now.
Well, Lytle, what's going on with the building also has to do with the mission of USES. You know, there's more gentrification in the South End, but still a lot of people of need there and in Lower Roxbury. So what's become of the mission?
So over the last couple of years, United South End Settlements has really been focused on our strategic plan and really understanding what the impact is that we can have. The reality is over 30% of children in the South End are living below the poverty line. That's not something we think about when we think of the city of Boston and what's happening there, given the gentrification that is there. And then we know that there are more children and families who are struggling if we know that's just below the poverty line. So for us, when we went through the strategic plan and looked at the impact that we could continue to have, we knew that being in the South End was still very much important to our history, our legacy, and our future. So for us, we got really clear on how are we going to disrupt the cycle of poverty for children and families? And that has led to us making programmatic decisions and changes and choices. And it's also led us down this path of looking at our real estate and how we can best leverage it in order to fulfill the mission that we have.
Frieda Garcia, people say, well, oh my gosh, this building is going to disappear, but I guess there will be some redistribution programs as far as spaces in the South End, right?
Yes, well, I mean, USCS plans to continue what the programs they're now going to be focusing on, which does not include older adult programs as existed when I was there. older adult programs, I mean, older adult people will be served if they're related to families, but not as individuals. So that's continue, and the plan, as I understand it, is to create a new Harriet Tubman House on Rutland Street. There is space to do that, and that will be really fantastic. So that piece will continue. That piece of that history will continue. It just will be in a new space, and the old space is what's going to enable USCS today to continue with its mission. Without getting rid of that building, they will not be able to do that.
Maicharia, short of getting into details of architectural planning here, what do you envision at Rutland Avenue as far as the campus expanding?
Absolutely. We are really looking at how we can serve more children and families. And so we're looking at an expansion into our play yard space, where we're looking at building about a 16,000, 17,000 square foot building that will increase our early childhood education program. It will increase our Club 48 program, and we'll have the ability to serve more families and adults in our job training program. And we envision this space to be a space that has a lot of connection to the Harriet Tubman House on 566 Columbus Avenue. We're looking at ways to incorporate that in the architecture and the feel of the space. It's really important to us to continue that legacy and to ensure that we do not lose sight of what is such an important history to African Americans and Blacks in Boston, to ensure that Harriet Tubman's legacy and the Harriet Tubman House legacy continues to exist.
Frieda, what about trying to make sure that the community does get benefits from the development that's going to take place at the current site of the Tubman House?
Well, I think that luckily at the time that space was acquired, it used to be a gasoline station on that corner, by the way. They had the awareness that they should buy that land and put a restriction on it, as I understand it, so that they can sell it now, but they have to sell it with this restriction that some nonprofit work has to happen there. That, at least, is my understanding. So in a way, that says that some of that work will continue in some form. It may not be under USCS's direct leadership, but some of that will continue in that space, and I think that's very important.
Maicharia, what about some of the reactions from the community? I mean, I have a feeling there are some people who, their first reaction is, oh no, how can they do that?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I think this has been a long process for us. We've been working on this for the past 18 months, really looking at the planning and feasibility of our real estate. At that time when we started, we pretty much were certain, including myself, that we would be located in that space, possibly in a new type of building, but that's where we would be located. So for us, this has been a journey, and we've gone through, I think, a very thoughtful process to look at how we can achieve our mission and impact families and children. And as we've moved closer and just announced that we are going to move forward with RFP on the 566 Columbus Ave and really look at redeveloping the Rutland Street properties, we've definitely had a mix of different comments and emotions towards what the decision has been. There are many people we've talked to who, when you see what we're doing on Rutland Street and you see the classrooms, you see the green space, you see that we are working with children, it makes sense to have our programs there. And then you have the reactions that many of us have had, even I had, through the process of what would it mean to not have that building there. And so as we've looked at this process and looking at a sale, we are very interested and have put forward in the RFP that we're looking forward to proposals that are going to have significant public and community benefit. That is really important to us as an organization. It's part of our mission. We're not doing this to get the highest value. We're doing this to fulfill our mission, and we want to continue such important history in a neighborhood that has impacted brown and black people for so long.
This is BNN News. We're talking with Maicharia, Weir, Lytle, and Frieda Garcia from United South End Settlements. Frieda, take us back a little bit to when you were executive director, at least the kind of people you saw coming in there. It's different from what's there now, even the older people who might have been coming in?
The first thing, and I was telling Maicharia about this, When I got there, and first of all, in 1981, we had the largest contract in the state of Massachusetts for older adult programs. We had a kitchen. We used to cook lunch. I gained weight as a result of those delicious lunch. We used to hold 3 or 4 incredible parties for the seniors. I mean, with the band, a dance and social functions. I mean, it was a very active community. But the other reality is United Way was a partner. And one of the things that happened, I don't know quite how, after September 11th, I left the month before September 11th. And USCS used to get $730,000 from United Way. And today, they get $30,000. I mean, things started to change very dramatically for the agency as a whole, and they could no longer continue to do the things that they were doing when I was there. In a way, I mean, I had 20 wonderful, incredible years. But the reality was the building was continuing to deteriorate. There was no money to make the improvements that needed to have been made from the time that we switched a building that was meant to be electrical, that could not function as an electrical building. And so all that patchwork, all that stuff that was done was catching up. And that was what the agency is facing today and trying to deal with.
What about that, Maicharia, the whole change in the landscape of funding? What's happening that you have to contend with?
So my assessment of this is that they're just changes. And as we all know, we had the recession in 2008, 2009 that impacted all of us who have been in the nonprofit and impacted philanthropy significantly. We've also just, I think, evolved in this work to really look at how are we having the impact that we are all working towards having. And so funders have also had to change and evolve and look at how they're stewarding the monies that they're receiving to ensure that they're getting a wonderful return on their investment of social impact. So we're just seeing changes in the landscape. Nonprofits are struggling today to raise money. We have to put a lot of work and effort into raising money so that we can offer the programs. That's where we spend a significant amount of time. That's where I spend a lot of my time. And we're looking at how we can have the greatest impact. So for us, that went into a lot of the decisions we had to make in terms of limited resources, but we want to have great impact and we want to go deeper, and that's where we became more narrow in our focus of looking at children and families, which has been part of our history and legacy. And we continue to include older adults, but we do it in a very different way, no longer in the exercise classes, but through volunteerism. They're in the classrooms with young children. They're partners with us in this work. So there's lots of room for everyone to still be very much engaged at USCS. It just looks different than it was maybe when Frieda was there and the different contracts and programs that we had funded at that time.
Well, for more details and updates on this, you've got something online people can check out?
We do. We are really focused on having a transparent process, and so we have all of our information on our website. It's uscs.org/vision125, and that's where we have the RFP. We have information about our strategic plan, and we'll continue to make updates there.
Thank you very much. Maicharia, Weir, Lytle, and Frieda Garcia from USCS.
Thank you.
We'll have more news in just a moment.